Captain Jake Morrison stood on the bridge of the New Horizon and watched the strange ships appear near Jupiter. The alien vessels looked nothing like human ships. They were smooth and silver, shaped like teardrops that seemed to bend the space around them. Jake had been in space for 15 years, but he had never seen anything like this. "Captain, they're sending a signal," said Lisa Brooks from her station. She was the ship's science officer and the smartest person Jake knew. Her fingers moved quickly over her controls as she tried to understand the alien message. "Can you understand what they're saying?" Jake asked. "It's some kind of universal translator signal. They want to meet with us." "They're calling themselves the Galactic High Command," Lisa said. Her voice was steady, but Jake could see the excitement in her eyes. Jake looked at his crew. They were all good people who had volunteered for this deep space mission. None of them had expected to meet aliens. "Tell them we accept their invitation to meet." The alien ships moved closer to the New Horizon. The largest ship was huge, maybe 10 times bigger than any human vessel. It looked like a floating city made of crystal and metal. Jake could see lights moving inside it like flowing water. "They want us to come aboard their ship," Lisa said. "They're sending coordinates for a docking bay." Jake nodded. "Kevin, you're with us." "Lisa, bring all our technology reports." Kevin Hayes was their chief engineer, a quiet man who understood machines better than most people understood other humans. The alien docking bay was unlike anything Jake had ever seen. The walls seemed to be alive, shifting and changing to fit their small shuttle perfectly. Strange lights moved through the floor like rivers of electricity. The air smelled clean but different, like ozone after a thunderstorm. 3 aliens waited for them in the docking bay. The leader was tall and covered in golden scales that caught the light. He had 4 arms and eyes that were completely black. When he spoke, his voice came from a device on his chest that translated his words into English. "I am Admiral Zexter of the Vorthan Empire. You are the representatives of the species called humans?" His voice sounded bored, like he was asking about the weather. "Yes, I'm Captain Jake Morrison. This is Dr. Lisa Brooks and Engineer Kevin Hayes. We represent Earth and humanity." Jake said. Zexter made a sound that might have been laughter. "Earth, yes, we have observed your small world. You have recently achieved what you call interstellar travel. How primitive." Jake felt his jaw tighten, but he kept his voice calm. "We're always eager to learn from more advanced civilizations." "Advanced," Zexter repeated. "Come, the Council wishes to examine your technology." They walked through corridors that seemed to stretch forever. The walls showed images of space, but Jake realized they were actually windows showing the real view outside. Hundreds of alien ships floated in formation around them. Each ship was different, representing dozens of alien species. The council chamber was enormous. Beings of all shapes and sizes sat in floating chairs arranged in a circle. Some looked like giant insects, others were made of what appeared to be living crystal. A few looked almost human except for extra arms or different colored skin. "Present your technology reports," Zexter commanded. Lisa stepped forward and activated her tablet. Holographic images appeared in the air, showing human achievements. She spoke about their fusion reactors, their quantum computers, their faster-than-light engines that could cross between star systems. The aliens watched in silence for a few minutes. Then the sound started. Jake realized they were laughing. All of them. The sound filled the chamber like a wave of mockery. "Fusion," said one alien that looked like a walking tree. "They still burn things for energy." "And their computers," added another that seemed to be made of pure light. "They use solid materials for calculation. How quaint." Zexter raised one of his 4 hands for silence. "Humans of Earth, your species is approximately 1,000 years behind even the most backward members of our alliance. Your ships use what we abandoned millennia ago. Your weapons are toys. Your energy systems are barely capable of powering a modern communications device." Kevin stepped forward, his face red with anger. "Our technology works, it's reliable, and we can fix it anywhere." "Fix it?" Zexler seemed genuinely puzzled. Why would advanced technology need fixing? Proper technology does not break. "Everything breaks eventually," Kevin said. "The question is whether you can repair it when it does." More laughter filled the chamber. "Repair," said the tree-like alien. "They actually plan for their technology to fail." Zexler looked down at the humans like a teacher correcting children. "We will make this simple for you. Your species has two choices. You may become a protectorate under our guidance. You will mine materials and provide basic labor for the advanced civilizations. In return, we will protect you and provide you with technology suitable for your level of development." "And the second choice?" Jake asked. "You return to your small world and remain there. We will place markers around your system warning other species that primitives live there. You will be left alone until you achieve true advancement on your own, which our calculations suggest will take approximately 2,000 of your years." Jake looked at Lisa and Kevin. Lisa's hands were clenched into fists. Kevin was staring at the alien technology around them, but Jake could see he was analyzing rather than admiring. "How long do we have to decide?" Jake asked. "One standard galactic year, which equals approximately 14 of your months." "Surely that is enough time for even primitives to see reason," Zexler said. The meeting ended quickly after that. The aliens seemed bored with the humans, like adults who had finished explaining something obvious to children. They escorted Jake and his team back to their shuttle without much ceremony. As they flew back to the New Horizon, Kevin broke the silence. "Did you notice something?" "What?" Lisa asked. "They never asked about our manufacturing. They never asked how we build things or how fast we can make them. They only looked at what we had built, not how we built it." Jake nodded slowly. "They think they know everything about us from looking at our finished products?" "That could be a mistake," Kevin said quietly. Lisa was reviewing her recordings of the alien technology. "Their ships are incredible, but I noticed something too. Everything is integrated, nothing is modular. If one part breaks, you probably have to replace the whole system. While our ships are built like machines that can be taken apart and put back together," Kevin added. Jake looked out at the alien fleet still gathered around Jupiter. The ships were beautiful and obviously far more advanced than anything humans had built. But there was something about the way they moved, something about their perfect formation, that made him think of a parade rather than a working fleet. "Set course for Earth," he told his pilot. "We have a report to make and a decision to help our people reach." As the New Horizon turned toward home, Jake wondered if the aliens had made the first mistake in what might become a very interesting 14 months. The emergency session of the Global Space Council began at dawn in Geneva. Representatives from every nation on Earth filled the massive assembly hall. President Helen Carter stood at the podium, her face serious as she looked out at the gathered leaders. 3 days ago, humanity made first contact with an alien alliance called the Galactic High Command, she began. The hall erupted in whispers and gasps, even though most of the representatives had already heard rumors. "They have given us 14 months to choose between becoming their servants or staying isolated on Earth forever." The Chinese delegate stood up. "What exactly did they offer us?" Captain Jake Morrison stepped forward to answer. "Mining and basic labor in exchange for protection and simple technology. They made it clear they consider us primitives who are about 1,000 years behind their weakest members." "And if we refuse?" asked the representative from Brazil. "They isolate our solar system. No trade, no contact, no help. They wait 2,000 years for us to advance on our own," Jake replied. The Brazilian delegate shook his head. 2,000 years, that might as well be forever. Director Ben Walsh of NASA stood up from his seat. "With respect, I disagree. We have advantages they don't understand." "Captain Morrison, tell them what your engineer observed." Jake nodded to Kevin Hayes, who had been sitting quietly in the back. Kevin walked to the front, clearly uncomfortable with all the attention. "The aliens have amazing technology, but they think differently than we do," Kevin said. "Their ships are perfect, but they're not designed to be repaired. Everything is built as one piece. If it breaks, you replace the whole thing." "So?" asked the German representative. "So what happens when you're far from home and something breaks?" What happens when you can't get replacement parts? What happens when you need to modify something for a job it wasn't designed for? Lisa Brooks joined them at the front. I've been analyzing their technology from our scans. It's incredibly advanced, but it's also incredibly specialized. Each device does one thing perfectly. Our technology does many things adequately. President Carter looked around the room. Dr. Walsh has a proposal. Then Walsh activated a holographic display. Project Defiance. Instead of trying to copy technology we don't understand, we push our existing technology to its limits. We use our strengths, not their strengths. The display showed plans for new ship designs, manufacturing facilities, and research programs. We have 14 months. That's not enough time to become like them, but it might be enough time to become something they don't expect. The Indian representative leaned forward. What exactly are you proposing? We show them what human engineering really means, Walsh said. Not elegant, not perfect, but tough, adaptable, and maintainable. Over the following weeks, Project Defiance grew from an idea into the largest international effort in human history. Every nation contributed resources, expertise, and personnel. The goal was simple: demonstrate that human technology, while less advanced, had advantages the aliens had never considered. Dr. Amy Foster took charge of spacecraft development at the Kennedy Space Center. She had spent her career designing modular systems, and now she had unlimited resources to pursue her vision. Every component must be interchangeable, she told her team. A communication array should be able to become a sensor array with simple modifications. A cargo pod should convert to a weapon mount if needed. Her team worked around the clock, designing ships that could reconfigure themselves for different missions. The key was standardization. Every bolt, every connector, every interface followed the same specifications. A part made in Japan would fit perfectly in a ship built in Germany. Meanwhile, Colonel Steve Rogers was revolutionizing human military doctrine at the Colorado Space Command. Unlike the aliens with their perfect weapons, Rogers focused on systems that worked even when damaged, redundancy in everything, he told his officers. If we lose main power, we fight on backup power. If we lose backup power, we fight with emergency power. If we lose that, we fight with hand tools if we have to. Rogers designed weapons that could be operated manually if their computers failed. He created armor that could be repaired with basic materials. Most importantly, he developed tactics that assumed equipment would break and plans would go wrong. The real revolution came from an unexpected source. Maria Santos was a factory supervisor in Detroit who had spent 20 years making cars. When she heard about Project Defiance, she drove to Washington and demanded a meeting with Director Walsh. "You're thinking about this wrong," she told the assembled scientists and engineers. "You're trying to build better ships. What you need is to build better shipyards." Maria explained her vision with the passion of someone who understood manufacturing. At its core, the aliens have better technology, but how fast can they make it? How many can they build at once? What happens when they need 1,000 ships instead of 10? Her ideas transformed Project Defiance. Instead of building a few advanced ships, Earth would build many simple ships very quickly. Instead of perfect vessels that took months to construct, they would create adequate vessels that rolled off production lines in days. The first test came 6 months into the project. Admiral Zexler returned with a small fleet to check on humanity's progress. He expected to find a broken species preparing to surrender. Instead, he found the busiest solar system he had ever seen. Asteroid mining operations worked around the clock in the belt between Mars and Jupiter. New space stations orbited every major planet. Hundreds of human ships moved between the worlds, carrying supplies and personnel. The level of activity was unlike anything in the aliens' experience. "Impossible," Zexler muttered as his sensors showed the scope of human expansion. They were barely able to travel between planets 14 months ago. His science officer, a crystalline being named Tisara, studied the readings with growing amazement. "Admiral, they have built more infrastructure in 6 months than most species build in 6 years. But look at the quality, Zexter said, trying to maintain his confidence. Their ships are crude, basic. Any one of our vessels could destroy a dozen of theirs. Yes, sir, but sir ... What? They have built 300 ships in the time it took us to perform routine maintenance on our fleet. Zexler stared at the display. His 12 ships were beautiful, advanced, and incredibly powerful. The human fleet was larger, more spread out, and busy with constant activity. Every human ship looked slightly different, as if they were constantly being modified and improved. Request a meeting with their representatives, he ordered. I want to understand what they think they are accomplishing. Jake Morrison, now commanding a fleet of 50 ships, met the alien admiral at the same coordinates near Jupiter where they had first encountered each other. But this time Jake was not alone. His fleet stretched out behind him in a formation that emphasized numbers rather than elegance. Admiral Zexter, Jake said through the communication link, welcome back to our solar system. Captain Morrison. I see you have been busy, Admiral Morrison now actually. And yes, we have been busy. Would you like a demonstration of what we have accomplished? Zexler's confidence wavered slightly. The human fleet was much larger than he had expected, and their coordination was impressive, but surely their technology was still primitive. Very... Well, show me what you believe you have achieved, Jake smiled. It was time to show the aliens that humans had learned something important in the past 14 months. They had learned that sometimes the best technology is not the most advanced technology. Sometimes the best technology is the technology that works when everything goes wrong. Amy, begin the demonstration, Jake said into his communicator. Doctor. Amy Foster's voice came back clear and confident. Initiating reconfiguration sequence. All ships prepare for modular transformation. Zexter watched in fascination as the human fleet began to change before his eyes. Admiral Zexter watched in growing amazement as the human fleet transformed before his eyes. Ships that had looked like simple cargo vessels suddenly sprouted weapon arrays. Science ships reconfigured themselves into mining platforms. Transport vessels became mobile factories. In less than an hour, the entire fleet had changed its purpose. Impossible, whispered Tassara from her station. Ships cannot change their fundamental design in space. Human ships can, Jake Morrison replied over the communication channel. He had been listening to their conversation through translation. Protocols. Every component in our fleet is designed to fit every other component. We call it modular architecture. Dr. Amy Foster joined the conversation from her command ship. Each ship is essentially a framework that can accept different modules depending on the mission. Need more weapons? Swap out the cargo modules for weapon modules. Need more sensors? Replace the habitat modules with sensor arrays. Zexter studied the readings from his own sensors, but the efficiency must be terrible. Specialized equipment always performs better than generalized equipment. You're right, Amy admitted. Our mining laser is only 60% as effective as a dedicated mining ship. Our weapons are only 70% as powerful as purpose-built warships. But we can have mining lasers on every ship when we need them, and weapons on every ship. When we need those? Kevin Hayes had joined the demonstration from the orbital shipyards near Earth. But that's only the beginning. Watch this. 3 human ships approached one of Zexter's vessels. The alien ship was beautiful, its crystalline hull gleaming in the light from Jupiter. Advanced energy weapons powered up as the human ships came. Closer. Your ships are approaching weapons range, Zexter warned. We know, Jake replied. This is part of the demonstration. Please disable our ships. Disable them, shoot them. Destroy them if you want. We want to show you something. Zexter hesitated. This was not the kind of demonstration he had expected. But if the humans wanted to show him how easily their primitive ships could be destroyed, he would oblige them. Fire, he ordered. The alien weapons were precisely targeted and devastatingly effective. All 3 human ships lost power immediately. Their engines died, their weapons went offline, and they began drifting in space like dead hulks. There, Zexter said with satisfaction. Your primitive technology is no match for advanced systems. Now comes the interesting part, Jake said. Maria, begin recovery operations. From seemingly empty space, dozens of small objects appeared. Zexler-S sensors had not detected them because they were not ships. They were automated repair drones, tiny compared to the massive vessels but swarming around the disabled human ships like insects around flowers. What are those? Tizara asked. Maria Santos answered from her control station on one of the human ships, repair drones. Every human ship carries 100 of them. They're designed to fix anything that can break. The drones moved with purpose and efficiency. They cut away damaged sections of hull and replaced them with new pieces carried in their small cargo holds. They rerouted power systems around destroyed components. They installed backup computers to replace ones that had been fried by alien weapons. How long will this take? Zexler asked. In his experience, ships damaged this badly would need to return to a major shipyard for months of repairs. About 4 hours for full restoration, Maria replied. 2 hours if we just want them operational again. Zexler could not hide his shock. 4 hours, but the damage is extensive. That's the beauty of modular design, Kevin explained. We don't repair things. We replace them. Every component is designed to be removed and replaced quickly. The drones carry a full set of replacement parts for every major system. Colonel Steve Rogers joined the conversation from his command ship. This is standard doctrine for us. We assume everything will break eventually, so we design everything to be fixed quickly. But surely this approach results in inferior performance? Zexler protested. Our ships never break because they are built properly the first time? What happens when they do break? Steve asked. They do not break. But what if they did? Zexler was quiet for a moment. In truth, when one of their ships suffered significant damage, it was usually considered a total loss. The technology was so advanced and integrated that repairs were often impossible outside of specialized facilities. Your ships are impressive, Jake said diplomatically. But they're built like works of art. Our ships are built like tools. 2 hours later, the 3 human ships that had been destroyed were back in formation, fully operational. Zexler ran every sensor scan he could think of, but the ships showed no signs of their recent destruction. Remarkable, he admitted. But surely this is your greatest achievement. Actually, this is just the warm-up, Amy said. Jake, show him the real demonstration. Jake activated a fleet-wide communication channel. All ships begin manufacturing. Protocol 7. Zexler watched as the human fleet spread out across a wider area. Ships that had been configured as mobile factories moved to different positions around several large asteroids. Mining ships attached themselves to the rocky surfaces and began extracting materials. What are you doing now? He asked. Building ships, Maria answered simply. Building ships in space, that is impossible. Is it? Kevin asked. You saw us repair ships. Building them is just repair in reverse. The process was unlike anything Zexler had ever witnessed. The mining ships extracted raw materials from the asteroids and fed them directly to the factory ships. The factory ships processed the materials and began assembling components. Other ships in the fleet contributed their own manufacturing capabilities, creating a distributed production line that stretched across thousands of kilometers. But you cannot possibly have the industrial capacity to build ships in space, Tizara protested. Manufacturing requires massive facilities, specialized equipment, trained personnel. Why? Maria asked. Our ships are just collections of standard modules. We have the blueprints stored in every computer. We have the raw materials all around us. We have automated systems that can do most of the work. Why do we need a planet? The alien science officer had no answer for that. Her own species had always built ships in massive orbital facilities that took decades to construct and required thousands of specialists to operate. How long does this process take? Zexler asked, though he was beginning to suspect he would not like the answer. For a basic scout ship, about 18 hours from raw asteroid to finished vessel, Amy replied. For a larger ship like the ones you destroyed, maybe 3 days? 3 days, Zexler repeated weakly. Of course, that's just one ship from one production line, Jake added. We're currently operating 12 production lines. Tomorrow we'll have 15. Zexler looked at his own fleet. His 12 ships represented months of construction time in the most advanced shipyards in the galaxy. Each ship was a masterpiece of engineering and technology. They were faster, more powerful, and more sophisticated than anything the humans could build. But if the humans could build 12 ships in the time it took him to build one, how many ships would they have in a year? In 10 years? This is not possible, he said. No species in the galaxy has this kind of manufacturing capability. Maybe that's because no other species needed it, Steve suggested. Maybe they all had powerful ships from the beginning, so they never learned to build many ships quickly. We're not trying to compete with your technology, Jake explained. We're trying to solve the same problems in a different way. You build ships that never break. We build ships that can be fixed when they do break. You build perfect ships slowly. We build adequate ships quickly. But which approach is better? Zexler asked. That depends on the situation, Amy replied. If you never face unexpected challenges, perfect ships are fine. But if you need to adapt to changing conditions, if you need to operate far from support, if you need to outnumber an enemy instead of outfighting them, then our approach has advantages. As if to demonstrate her point, 3 new human ships emerged from the manufacturing area. They were still warm from construction, their hulls gleaming with fresh metal. Automated systems guided them into formation with the rest of the fleet. 18 hours from asteroid to operational warship, Maria announced with obvious pride. Zexler stared at the newest additions to the human fleet. They were not as beautiful as his ships. They were not as advanced. But they existed, and in 18 hours there would be more of them. For the first time since making contact with humanity, Admiral Zexler began to wonder if the Galactic High Command had made a serious error in judgment. The Council of Species gathered in the Great Assembly Hall on the galactic capital world of Nexus Prime. Representatives from 47 different civilizations filled the floating seats that surrounded the central speaking platform. Admiral Zexler stood in the center, his golden scales reflecting the soft light that emanated from the crystalline walls. High Counselor Mtan of the Netheri floated above the others, his gaseous form shimmering with different colors as his emotions changed. The ancient being had witnessed the rise and fall of dozens of species over the centuries, but the report from Admiral Zexler troubled him deeply. Explain again how a primitive species could challenge our technology, demanded Counselor Tessara. Of the Zalani. Her crystalline body rang like a bell when she spoke, the sound translated into words by the council systems. Zexler activated the holographic display that showed recordings from his encounter with the human fleet. They do not challenge our technology directly. They have created an entirely different approach to the same problems we face. The display showed human ships transforming from cargo vessels to warships, mining platforms to factories. It showed the repair drones swarming over damaged vessels, rebuilding them in hours. Most shocking of all, it showed new ships being constructed in space from raw asteroids. Impossible, declared Counselor Vorth of the insectoid Kithura. Manufacturing requires controlled environments, specialized facilities, trained technicians. No species can build ships in the vacuum of space. Yet the humans do exactly that, Zexler replied. I watched them construct 3 fully operational vessels in less than a day. Their manufacturing capacity grows exponentially rather than linearly. High Counselor Mtan's form shifted to a deep purple, indicating deep thought. Show us their individual ships. How do they compare to our technology? The holographic display changed to show detailed scans of human vessels. The council members examined the readings with growing confusion. These energy readings are pathetic, said Counselor Zenth of the energy-based Luminari. Our smallest scout ships generate more power than their largest warships. Their weapons are crude projectile systems enhanced with primitive energy fields, added Counselor Tessara. A single one of our vessels could destroy dozens of theirs. Their computers use solid-state processing instead of quantum matrices, noted Counselor Brath of the machine collective known as the Apex. Their calculation speed is thousands of times slower than proper technology. Zexler nodded at each criticism. Everything you say is correct. Human technology is inferior in every measurable way. Yet they have capabilities that none of our species possess. Such as? Pan asked. Adaptability, redundancy, repairability, scalability. Zexler paused. And most importantly, independence? The council buzzed with confusion and skepticism. These were not traits that advanced civilizations typically valued. Why would anyone want technology that could be repaired when they could have technology that never broke? Dr. Lisa Brooks materialized in the center of the platform as a holographic projection. The human ambassador had requested permission to address the council directly, and man had granted it out of curiosity. Honorable counselors, Lisa began. Thank you for allowing me to speak. I want to address the concerns you have raised about human technology. Counselor Vorth clicked his mandibles dismissively. Your technology is primitive. What could you possibly tell us that we do not already know? I want to tell you about failure, Lisa replied calmly. The council fell silent. Failure was not a concept that advanced civilizations discussed openly. Every piece of human technology is designed with the assumption that it will eventually fail, Lisa continued. Every system has backups. Every component can be replaced. Every design includes plans for repair and modification. Why would you plan for failure? Asked Counselor Zenth. Proper technology does not fail. Because nothing is truly permanent, Lisa answered. Your ships are magnificent, but what happens when they encounter something unexpected? What happens when they need to operate in an environment they were not designed for? What happens when they suffer damage far from any repair facility? She activated her own holographic display, showing human technology in detail. Our ships are not perfect, but they are flexible. This mining laser can become a cutting tool, a weapon, or a welding system depending on what we need. This computer module can run life support, navigation, or weapons control. This hull panel can be removed and replaced by anyone with basic tools. Counselor Brath processed this information with mechanical precision, but this approach results in significant inefficiency. Specialized systems always perform better than generalized ones. True, Lisa agreed. But specialized systems also fail catastrophically when they encounter problems they were not designed to handle. Our systems fail gracefully and can be adapted to new situations. Graceful failure, Pan mused, his form shifting to a thoughtful orange, an interesting concept. Lisa activated another display. Let me show you something that happened to one of our exploration ships last month. The recording showed a human vessel approaching an unexplored star system. Without warning, the ship encountered a field of some kind of exotic energy that disabled all its primary systems. The fusion reactor shut down, the computer core fried, and the navigation systems failed completely. By your standards, this ship should have been lost, Lisa explained. But watch what happens next. The human crew immediately began emergency procedures. They switched to backup power systems that were completely separate from the main reactor. They activated emergency computers that were hardened against electromagnetic interference. Most impressively, they began manually reconfiguring ship systems to work around the damaged components. Within 6 hours, they had restored basic life support and communication, Lisa said. Within 12 hours, they had jury-rigged a navigation system using emergency beacons and manual calculations. Within 24 hours, they had modified their mining equipment to serve as a makeshift engine and were heading home. The council watched in fascination as the human crew worked with tools and techniques that seemed impossibly primitive. Yet they succeeded in saving their ship when any other species would have considered it a total loss. This is why we design things the way we do, Lisa explained. Not because we want our technology to fail, but because we know it sometimes will. When that happens, we want our people to have options. Counselor Tisara rang with a sound of confusion. But surely, this approach limits your advancement. If you always plan for primitive backups, you never achieve true sophistication. Does it? Lisa asked. Let me show you our latest development. The display changed to show human ships incorporating alien materials and energy sources. But instead of copying alien designs, the humans had adapted the advanced materials to their own modular architecture. We have been studying samples of your technology that you shared during our first meeting, Lisa said. Your materials science is centuries ahead of ours. Your energy manipulation techniques are far more sophisticated than anything we could develop. Then why do you not simply copy our designs? Asked Counselor Zenth. Because we want to understand the principles, not just use the products, Lisa replied. We have taken your crystalline hull materials and created modular panels that can be manufactured in our orbital factories. We have studied your energy fields and developed generators that can be repaired with basic tools. The display showed human ships that looked different from before. They still had the familiar modular design, but now they incorporated alien technology in ways that made it maintainable and repairable. The result is technology that combines your advanced capabilities with our practical requirements, Lisa said. Ships that are both powerful and reliable. High Counselor Mcan floated lower, his form now a deep blue indicating intense interest. You are suggesting that your primitive approach might actually be compatible with our advanced technology. More than compatible, Lisa said, complimentary. Your technology does things we could never achieve. Our technology does things in ways you never considered. Together, they could create something better than either approach alone. Impossible, Counselor Vorth declared. Advanced species do not learn from primitives. Why not? Lisa asked simply. If we have developed techniques that solve problems you have never had to face, why would those techniques not be valuable? The question hung in the air like a challenge. For the first time in their history, the Galactic High Command was being asked to consider that a less advanced species might have something to teach them. Tan's form slowly shifted to a pale green, indicating uncertainty. This council will need time to consider your words, Ambassador Brooks. Of course, Lisa replied. But while you consider, I have one more thing to show you. The final display showed the current state of the human solar system. Hundreds of ships moved between dozens of space stations. Mining operations worked constantly in the asteroid belt. Manufacturing platforms built new vessels around the clock. This is what we accomplished in 14 months with our primitive technology, Lisa said. Imagine what we could accomplish in 14 years if we combined our approaches with your knowledge. As her hologram faded, the council sat in stunned silence. 2 years after first contact, the galaxy looked very different than anyone had expected. The human Zelani Joint Research Station orbited the binary star system of Kepler 442, a massive structure that combined the elegant crystal architecture of the Zelani with the modular practicality of human engineering. Dr. Amy Foster floated through the station's central corridor, her magnetic boots clicking against the metal deck plates that had been designed to accommodate both human and alien physiologies. Through the transparent aluminum windows, she could see the latest project taking shape in the construction bay. The hybrid drive system is exceeding all performance expectations, reported Dr. Kevin Hayes through the communication system. He was working in the engineering section with a team of Zelani technicians, their crystalline bodies refracting the workshop lights into rainbow patterns. Amy smiled as she watched the alien engineers learning to use human tools. 6 months ago, the Zelani had considered hammers and screwdrivers to be impossibly primitive implements. Now they were discovering the satisfaction of fixing things with their own hands instead of relying on automated systems. Amy, you need to see this, called Maria Santos from the manufacturing deck. Maria had become something of a celebrity in galactic society, her insights into mass production revolutionizing how advanced species thought about industry. Amy made her way to the manufacturing section, where Maria was supervising the construction of a new type of vessel. The ship looked like nothing that had existed before, Sleek Vorthen hull design combined with human modular components and Kythera biomechanical systems. It's beautiful, Amy said, admiring the fusion of technologies. And practical, Maria added. We can build 12 of these in the time it used to take the Vorthens to build one of their old ships. But these new ships are twice as capable as anything any of our species could build alone. Through the station's communication array, they could hear updates from across the galaxy. The human approach to engineering was spreading to dozens of worlds, but not as a replacement for existing technology. Instead, it was being integrated with alien advances to create entirely new possibilities. Admiral Jake Morrison arrived at the station aboard his new flagship, the Unity. The ship was a perfect example of the new philosophy: Vorthen energy shielding, luminary power systems, Kythera bioadaptive controls, and human modular architecture all working together in harmony. Admiral, we have a priority message from the Galactic Council, reported his communications officer. Lieutenant Sarah, Kim. Jake made his way to the station's command center, where High Counselor Mpan appeared as a holographic projection. The ancient Netheri's gaseous form was a warm gold color, indicating satisfaction and approval. Admiral Morrison, I bring good news from the Council. The Galactic Defense Initiative has been approved unanimously. Jake nodded with satisfaction. The Defense Initiative was humanity's latest contribution to galactic society, a proposal to create a reserve fleet that could respond quickly to any threat in the galaxy. Unlike traditional galactic ships that were powerful but few in number, the reserve fleet would consist of thousands of smaller, more flexible vessels that could be manufactured quickly and deployed anywhere they were needed. The Andromedans have agreed to provide quantum communication arrays for instant coordination across galactic distances, Mpan continued. The Zilani will contribute their shield technology. The Vorthens will supply advanced weapon systems, and humanity will provide the manufacturing capability and modular design philosophy that makes it all possible. Dr. Lisa Brooks joined the conversation from her office on Earth, where she now served as Director of Interspecies Technology Exchange. We have 17 different species participating in the first production run. Each ship will incorporate the best technology from across the galaxy, but built using human manufacturing principles. Colonel Steve Rogers appeared on another channel from the Military Coordination Center on Mars. The tactical implications are enormous. For the first time, we'll have a galactic fleet that can adapt to any situation, repair itself in the field, and replace losses faster than any enemy can inflict them. But the most important change is not technological, Pan observed. For the first time in galactic history, our species are truly working together instead of just coexisting. Admiral Zexter joined the conversation from his own ship, now serving as the first alien officer in the integrated command structure. I must admit, I was wrong about human technology. I thought primitive meant inferior. I did not understand that sometimes primitive means fundamental. What do you mean? Jake asked. Your species never forgot the basic principles that make technology work, Zexter explained. While we became dependent on perfect systems that we did not fully understand, you maintained the knowledge of how to build, repair, and modify the tools you needed. That knowledge turned out to be more valuable than any specific technology. Kevin Hayes had joined the conversation from his workshop. The funny thing is, we're not really teaching aliens our technology. We're teaching them our way of thinking about technology. Once they understand that, they can apply it to their own advanced systems. And the results are remarkable, added Dr. Amy Foster. Kythera bioships that can be repaired by anyone with basic medical knowledge. Luminary energy. Weapons that can be maintained with simple tools. Vorthen space-folding drives that include backup systems and manual overrides. Maria Santos laughed from her position on the manufacturing floor. 6 months ago, the idea of a backup system for a space-folding drive would have been considered impossible. Now we're building them as standard equipment. The conversation was interrupted by an alert from the station's sensors. A new ship was approaching, but it was unlike anything they had seen before. The vessel combined technologies from at least 8 different species, all integrated into a design that was both elegant and practical. "That's the prototype for the new exploration vessel," Lisa announced with obvious pride. "Built by a joint crew of humans, Zelani, Vorthans, and Kithra. It represents everything we've learned about combining different approaches to technology." As they watched, the new ship demonstrated capabilities that would have been impossible for any single species to achieve. It could travel faster than Vorthan ships, fight better than human vessels, adapt like Kithra biotechnology, and maintain itself better than anything the galaxy had ever seen. "The most remarkable thing," Pan observed, "is that this integration benefits everyone. The advanced species gain reliability and adaptability. The humans gain access to technologies they could never develop on their own. Everyone wins." Admiral Morrison looked around at the faces on his screens, human, alien, and everything in between, all working together toward common goals. "You know what I think is really happening here?" "What?" Amy asked. "We're not just sharing technology? We're creating a new kind of civilization. One where being different is an advantage instead of a problem." Colonel Rogers nodded in agreement. "The galaxy used to be a place where every species tried to be perfect in their own way. Now it's becoming a place where every species contributes their own strengths to solve problems together." Dr. Kevin Hayes made his way to an observation window where he could see the new exploration ship preparing for its maiden voyage. "You know what the real irony is? The Galactic High Command was right about one thing. Our technology was primitive compared to theirs, but," Lisa prompted, "but primitive isn't the opposite of advanced. Primitive is the foundation that advanced is built on. We never lost touch with that foundation, so we could help everyone else remember it too." The exploration ship began moving away from the station, its hybrid drives creating a beautiful light show as different technologies worked in perfect harmony. Watching it, Jake Morrison felt a deep satisfaction. Humanity had not conquered the galaxy with superior weapons or overwhelming technology. Instead, they had earned their place by teaching the galaxy's most advanced civilizations something they had forgotten: that the best technology is not the most sophisticated technology, but the technology that works when everything else fails. "Admiral," came a voice from the ship's communication officer, "we're receiving requests from 12 more species who want to join the manufacturing cooperative." Jake smiled. "Tell them we'll be happy to share everything we know. After all, the more people who understand how to build things that work, the stronger we all become." As the new exploration ship disappeared into hyperspace, beginning humanity's first joint mission to explore beyond the known galaxy, Jake reflected on how much had changed. The Galactic High Command had once mocked Earth's technology as primitive and worthless. Now that same technology was helping to create a stronger, more adaptable galactic civilization than anyone had thought possible. It turned out that sometimes the most important discoveries come not from learning something new, but from remembering something fundamental that had been forgotten. The galaxy had learned to build amazing things, but humanity had remembered how to build things that last.